welcome to the Doing Motherhood podcast with Anya Dula, where we talk all things Black mothers today. So, what's the goings on, y'all? This past weekend has been one of the craziest weekends that I've had. So, it finally happened. My son, Bryce, the one who plays soccer, was in Denver over the weekend with the Houston Dynamo Academy, and they're playing. So let me just set up the story. So I'm at home on my couch watching television, relaxing because I had a client who was in labor and I was just ready for her to call and let me know when it was time for me to join her. And then my phone rang. And first it rang from a number that I don't know. So I just let that go. And then the next call was from my son's phone. So I answer it, and there was a woman's voice on the line. And so, of course, immediately I was like, what is going on? And she proceeds to tell me that she's the team trainer and that she has Bryce here. It sounded like one of those school nurse calls. She's like, so I have Bryce here, and he had a really fast, hard play on the ball. He was knocked out, and so were his two front teeth. And so my heart sunk because here I am in Houston. My son is away in Denver. And, I have been that soccer mom that has always been there until he joined the academy, and they travel a lot. But so this was the first time that I'm getting that phone call that just sunk my stomach to let me know that something was wrong, that he was injured. And so I just kept asking them over and over again, is he okay? Is he okay? No, I want you to look at him. I want you to look in his eyes and tell me that my kid is okay. And do I need to come up there? What's going on? And so luckily, or not luckily, I don't even want to put it to luck. I want to shout out the Houston Dynamo Academy, their coaching staff, and also the coaching staff at the University of Denver for making sure that, he was all good in my absence and his dad's absence to make sure everything came together. He was able to have a dental procedure there. So he came home. He came home intact, and everything is all good. But man, it was a rough one for sure. But it's a little taste of what's going to happen, right? I talked before about him, this being his last year. Next school year will be his senior year in high school, and then he will be going to Denver. Actually, he's committed to playing soccer for the University of Denver. So shout out to all the good folks there who took care of my kiddo and got him home to me in one piece, even if it's not all the pieces that he went up there with. I had to tell him, you don't have to leave any pieces of you behind in Denver. You're going to get there. Don't just come home whole. like make sure that you're okay. So that was all good. What else is going on? We got word yesterday that Juneteenth will be a federal holiday now. Y'all know how I feel. You already know how I feel. The Senate passed the bill for it to become a federal holiday, as the anti-lynching bill is still sitting on someone's desk waiting for some fresh ink to touch it. But we got Juneteenth as a holiday, right? I don't even feel like we got Juneteenth as a holiday. Black people didn't get Juneteenth. We've had Juneteenth, right? We've always had Juneteenth. But I just wonder if people see the irony that I see in this. We are celebrating Juneteenth as the holiday that commemorates Black people in Texas finding out 2+ years after the fact that they were freed. And so now we have the general population joining into this celebration of a day that Black people were forced to be enslaved, past legislation that freed them. I don't know. It's twisted up in my head. I don't know if it's twisted up in your head. Only in America what are we going to do? celebrate. My concern is that at some point, and I want to believe in people enough to believe that this isn't something that we'll see anytime soon. But my concern is that when we are far away from this moment of social uprising and the racial upheaval that's taking place in the US, that this might be a holiday that people turn into something similar to Cinco de Mayo, where we dress up or they dress up in culturally appropriated costumes and drink cocktails and, turn it into a party. I would hope that that is not what we see. My concern is that at some point that is what we will see. Talk to your folks. That's the best advice I have. Talk to your folks. Let's make sure that's not something that happens. So with that, it actually takes us into our main segment for the day. But first, I would like to ask you to do all the things. Please like, subscribe, share, and give a review for this show. I absolutely appreciate any feedback or anything you can do to get these podcast episodes. And for those of you who are watching on YouTube, if you'll share the videos, I appreciate you for that. Also, we are going to have the first Ask Anya segment. So I'm really excited about that. Ask Anya segment is where you can write in as a listener if you have questions, problems, you just need a different perspective on something you've been mulling over, you're not sure how to address certain things. I'm here to answer that for you. So I've had long-term dreams of being a columnist, and this is my way of fulfilling that dream. I hope you will help me in sending in your questions to the Ask Anya segment. You can do that by sending me a DM on Instagram at doin_motherhood_podcast, or you can also email doinmotherhood@anyadula.com. So looking forward to that. All right, so first segment or main segment, we are talking about Juneteenth. So Juneteenth will be this Saturday. It is a holiday that, I don't think I really knew much about Juneteenth as a child, but I came to learn about it as an adult, and it is definitely a holiday that I celebrate, not in any major way. We're not doing anything really special. I usually try to find a Juneteenth parade. I live in 3rd Ward in Houston, Texas. There's always a Juneteenth parade in Houston. There were a couple of years that I participated in the parade, but I try to use the week going into Juneteenth just to think about where I am in my own station in life. I'm always thinking about the political station that Black women are in the greater context of the United States of America. And so there are just some reflections that I would like to share in that. So I tend to rely heavily, or, I use the works of Toni Morrison a lot. You've probably already noticed it. I also use the works of Oprah Winfrey a lot. I kind of think that they raised me. So a lot of my own personal compass is what I've learned through their work and kind of understanding who I am as a Black woman, not only in my community, but also within the greater context of the United States of America. So I am going to use one of her, if not her best-selling work, Beloved, to just kind of frame what I've been thinking about this week as we're looking at this Juneteenth holiday. So in the introduction to Beloved, Toni Morrison tells us about the time she realized the feeling of freedom She wrote a passage that I would like to just read to you very quickly. First, I want to share the first two lines of her foreword. And I thought that she's hilarious. In 1983, I lost my job or left it. One, the other, or both. And I think if you, like me, are a person who, was working within whatever system. For me, it was working in the healthcare system. For you, it may be wherever you were working, and you just kind of have that moment of, my work here is done. My work here is done. And however you had to get out of it, you had to get out of it. So that always tickles me when I open up this book and read that line. She's like, one, the other, both. They put me out, I left, one of those, however it went. So she goes on to tell us, a few days after my last day at work, sitting in front of the house on the pier jutting out into the Hudson River, I began to feel an edginess instead of the calm I had expected. I ran through my index of problem areas and found nothing new or pressing. I couldn't fathom what was so unexpectedly troubling on a day that perfect, watching a river that serene. I had no agenda and couldn't hear the telephone if it rang. I heard my heart, though, stomping away in my chest like a colt. I went back to the house to examine this apprehension, even panic. I knew what fear felt like. This was different. Then it slapped me. I was happy. Free in a way I had never been, ever. It was the oddest sensation, not ecstasy, not satisfaction, not a surefit of pleasure or accomplishment. It was a purer delight, a rogue anticipation with certainty. Enter beloved. I think now it was the shock of liberation that drew my thoughts to what free could possibly mean to women. In the 80s, the debate was still roiling. Equal pay, equal treatment, access to professions, schools, and choice without stigma. To marry or not, to have children or not. Inevitably, these thoughts led me to the different history of Black women in this country. A history in which marriage was discouraged, impossible, or illegal. In which birthing children was required, but having them, being responsible for them, being, in other words, their parent, was out of the question as freedom. Assertions of parenthood under the conditions peculiar to the logic of institutional enslavement were criminal. And so that's powerful, right? Maybe we just need to sit on that for a second. When I think of Juneteenth coming up this Saturday, I've been thinking a lot about the women, the Black birth workers who sacrifice in order to care for our communities, to educate Black women on health, pregnancy, and childbirth, correcting the maternal mortality crisis one Black family at a time. I'm thinking about those who have left the predictability and comfort of systems in order to change them. Listen, it's a big deal to leave steady paychecks, PTO time, and built-in camaraderie to join a fight for Black mothers' lives, forsaking the only livelihood we've known in order to create the life we choose to live and help others as we're doing it. I'm also thinking of the Black women who stay in the system to endure the threads of inevitable racist abuse day in and day out, but continue to climb until they're sitting at the table, setting agendas to make right the wrongs for Black women in the medical industrial complex. That's courage. I think about those in patient care who dare to put their career on the line to protect the rights of Black women who are in danger of having those rights stripped by the white coats who break their own oath. Listen, it's a big deal to beat out the competition at learning institutions that must be forced to let you in the first place, the mockery endured from classmates and professors alike, attempting to keep up with the ever-moving goalposts to get a profession that gives you more of the same, than to risk throwing it away for someone you just met a few hours ago, because we know the danger of white fragility in medical spaces. That's courage. It does not escape me that we continue to push and put our mental, emotional, and spiritual health on the line so that we can feel that sensation of freedom Toni Morrison felt and wrote about, so that we will know what it is when we feel it. She, among many others, left the clues so we could read the signs that would lead us to this path in the first place, to let us know that it all works out in the end, that as long as we stay the course, the bumps and the bruises we catch along the way will mend and heal. We can and we will create lives in which we and our children will be able to exist and thrive in freedom. I encourage you, I pray for you, I fight for you, and I love you. Happy Juneteenth. So as I put this all together, right, I'm having this reflection about what Black women are doing today to, one, especially those of us who are working to end this maternal crisis that we're in, and doing the work to fight a system that is steady pushing back, right? We know that the healthcare system is having a really hard time contending with the idea that it is rife with systemic racism, and that there's a lot of racial abuse that occurs within the system. And so on the one hand, we have Black women who have taken the charge, and in many different ways, in many different sectors. There are those of us like myself who left the system to change it from the outside. There are those who remain in the system, those who are sitting at the tables, as I said earlier, those who are affecting change from the inside, whether that's on an institutional level or those who are writing legislation such as the Momnibus Act. All of that is happening. And at the same time, we're caring for our own children, right? And so there's like the greater work that we're doing for our communities and Black women as a whole. And then there's also the fact that that work shows our children just how important it is that we are always striving and working toward our own freedom, our own personal freedoms. And so in the story, Beloved, if you are not familiar with the story of Beloved, yes, this is that story where that lady killed her baby. Yes. We're not killing babies today, but this is that story. The story of Beloved is the story of a woman named Sethi, who was an enslaved woman who had the courage to escape. And she escaped with her daughter, and she was also pregnant with another child. And so she runs and she makes it to a free state. And she's in that free state, and she begins to establish the life that she wants to set for herself and for her children. And so she's, you know, minding her business, minding her Black business, doing what Black women do, right? Tending to her house, tending to her children. And over the hill, if I remember how it's written correctly, I might be mixing the book and the story, but over the hill come, you know, the slave patrol, the slave catchers looking for her to take her back, to take her and her children back to the owners that she escaped from. And so in this moment of angst, anger, confusion, I'm sure, but out of a desperation, not only to remain free, but to ensure that the children that she had would never be placed in bondage again, she killed the baby. And in the movie, that was enough for the slave patrol to be like, oh no, we out. turn these horses around. We out of here, right? That's the way Hollywood portrayed it. And again, thinking about what we as Black women are willing to sacrifice, the sacrifices that we make in leaving very comfortable work conditions. Well, comfortable in one way, right? Comfortable in the sense that you know your livelihood will be taken care of. Leaving that, forsaking that in order to take care of our sisters. Those who are sticking it through and enduring it and understanding that that is part of the course, right? But that in some way, while we're doing this for one another, for other women, we're also doing this for our children to see the path. And so that we're not in this continuous state of survival, but that we begin to thrive. We create a life in which we can thrive so that our children have that much less to do in order to thrive. It's not often, Black women are not often credited with that work. And so this Juneteenth, I just want to cement that, right? I just want to say to all of you, I see you and I feel you. That's for sure, right? And I just want to encourage you to keep charting that path, keep creating the life that you want to live. I spoke with a few of my doula mentees earlier this week and told them, you know, this is what liberation work is. Yes, you're sick of your 9-to-5. We get it, right? Yes, you're tired of working for somebody else and you want to build from what you have. Like, all of those things are very real. But in the grand scheme of things, for Black women to leave the status quo and create what we want and know that we believe in and that we deserve, and setting those bounds for ourselves, that's liberation work. That's what we're doing. And I just want to encourage us to keep at it. We got it. All right, y'all. So I would like to know what you have planned for Juneteenth. I can tell you I am headed over to, there's a new vegan restaurant. It's Black owned here in 3rd Ward, and their grand opening is going to be on Juneteenth. So that's where I'm going to be eating really good, delicious vegan food from a restaurant that's Black owned. It's called Mo Better Brews. Okay. Mo Better Blues is my favorite Spike Lee joint, by the way. So I am definitely in there on opening day. So that is what Juneteenth will look like for me. I'm curious to know what Juneteenth looks like for you all. Join us over on Instagram and let's talk about it. You can find me at doing_motherhood_podcast on Instagram. Also, one last time, if you don't mind liking, subscribing, sharing this podcast, and leaving us a review, very grateful for the feedback that you do leave. And yeah, we'll check you next time.